Hello friends, and welcome back to our channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made a gargoyle. My name is Katora, and let's get crafty. For a while now, I've been wanting to spruce up our Halloween display, and I thought a gargoyle would be a perfect addition. I also have this lantern that has been hanging out in our basement for far too long, and I thought it would be interesting to have him hold it like he's greeting our guests on Halloween. The inspiration for my gargoyle comes from 3 different gargoyles that I Frankensteined together until I had something I was happy with. For the base of the pillar, I used a 1-gallon bucket and a pumpkin bucket. Off camera, I sanded down my bucket with some 80 grit sandpaper so the clay would stick to it better. To hide the ridges on the bucket, I used EVA foam floor mats, cut into strips, then glued on with contact cement. I was a little concerned about how heavy the gargoyle was going to be sitting on top of the bucket, so I made a brace to help stabilize the bucket and keep it from potentially caving in. A little more EVA foam for trim, and our bucket is ready for clay. I chose Celluclay for this project because it has a nice stony texture when it dries. The bag has everything you need in it, and all you have to do is add water to activate it. While working with Celluclay, I discovered that if you take a few minutes and break up the block before you add your water, you'll have a much smoother texture in the end. I also highly recommend wearing a mask during the mixing process. The Celluclay mixture is very dusty. If it is too wet, just add a little more of the mix. If it is too dry, just add more water. When I'm mixing up a batch, I'm looking for the consistency similar to thick oatmeal. For this part of the project, I'm channeling my cake decorating skills when applying the clay to the bucket. I've learned that a silicone spatula and working in small sections at a time was the easiest way to apply the clay to the bucket. To clean up the area where the 2 buckets meet, I used an EVA foam dowel. Okay, let's start on the body. Off camera, I constructed a very simple wire frame to build off of. I covered the skeleton with tinfoil. Then, wrapping the skeleton with a heavy gauge wire, starting from the arm that was going to hold the lantern and going down through the tail. Then wrapping that with a smaller wire to secure it to the skeleton. To bulk out the body, I used old shopping bags. When I was happy with the shape of the body, I went over everything with masking tape to smooth out the lumps from the shopping bags. I used construction adhesive to bring the two pieces together. To make sure the legs aren't going anywhere during the drying process, I anchor them to the pillar with screws. Now that the body and pillar are together, let's make the head. I think at this point I'm ready to give our gruesome guardian gargoyle a name. I'm thinking Greg the Gargoyle. While I am finishing up the head, can you do me a favor and hit that like button? And if you really like our content, please consider subscribing. Pat and I are in an uphill battle against our algorithmic overlords, and with your help we can defeat them. With everything wrapped in masking tape, let's get some clay on this body. This is the biggest sculpture I have attempted with Cellu clay so far. So my approach was to work back to front, let it dry for a day, then come back in and work on the details like the hands, the face, and the spine. I wasn't completely happy how the face turned out, so I worked a little more on it off camera until I was satisfied. I used 80 grit sandpaper to smooth out the bumps. I didn't want to go too heavy on the sanding because I really wanted Greg to look like he has been outside in the elements for several decades. Gesso was used for my undercoat of dear old Greg. I did 2 of them. Because good old Greg will be outside for Halloween, and we live in Michigan that is notorious for having poor weather on Halloween, I chose house paint for the base coat, and hopefully that will add another layer of protection against the elements from the Mitten State. A little bit of cell shading with Payne's Gray to help the details stand out a little bit better. Now, we are about to enter my favorite part of any project, weathering. For Greg, I'm going to keep it super simple and do a wash of black acrylic paint. I wasn't too picky on the placement of the wash, I just let gravity do its job, and then I went back through with a clean paper towel to wipe off the excess, just so the paint would stay in the cracks and crevices. My next layer of weathering was a wash of burnt umber. The final stop on the weathering train, I added some white highlights. The only thing we have to do now is give Greg his tongue. I would like to thank you again for watching this video, and I hope it has inspired you to go out and create something of your own. My name is Katora, and I will see you next time. Now let's check out those final results.